Okay, so you're planning a trip to the Great Barrier Reef. I've just done a trip myself with Big Cat Reality to Swains Reef, and I'm going to go through the gear that I use when I go on these trips, and I'm going to give you some tips on what lures to bring with you that in some cases will outfish bait. The very first one, my absolute favourite lure of all time, is the fish trap. Now this guy here is the 110 mils, 30 grams. These fish traps will catch you so many fish, from coral trout to red-throat emperor, you name it, you will catch it on a fish trap.
Ready? So now that I'm on the bottom, all I'm doing is lifting and dropping. It's that simple. Now, depending on the amount of current that you have, you may need to adjust the size of the fish trap that you're using. But there's a bite. There he is, and boom, got him. It's that easy. I'm just lifting and dropping it on the bottom. Now, vibe style lures have been around for a very long time, but these particular fish traps, the way they're designed, they just sit perfectly straight in the water, and these fish, that vibration hits their lateral line and they cannot help themselves but smash them. This is quite a reasonable fish. Here it comes now. Very pretty fish. Lovely. Oh, it's a coronation trout. Right, should we just lift him in? There he is. And there is that fish trap. What a pretty fish. Hooked in the corner of the mouth and a little bit in his fin there as well.
Another one to look out for is the live shrimp from Zerrick. Now these come rigged weedless. I take that out and I just put a jig head in them. Again, these bounced off the bottom account for some of the biggest coral trout you'll ever see. These are a fantastic lure as well. So I'll put a stack of them in my tackle box. So they're the two main, I guess, plastics that I will use. But if you want to use conventional soft plastics, look, there's a million out there, guys. They all catch, but I think generally I wouldn't go paddle tails or anything like that. I'd go for more like a jerk minnow. Anything from sort of 4.5, 4 inch, right through to 6 inch. I mainly just use 6 inch when I'm out there, but just your jerk stad style, nice big jig head, set it to the bottom and just bounce it up and down. And again, you'll catch stacks and stacks of fish. I use McCarthy. They're very, very good. What we're doing here, behind me, you can see there's a whole heap of bommies scattered all through here. And the way we're going to fish these is I simply cast out in between them on the sand, and I just let them sink down just beside the bommies. You don't want to cast them up on top, you're just going to get snagged. And it's as simple as letting it hit the bottom. We're only in, what are we in now? 2.9 meters of water. And I'm just going to work that plastic back with a couple of flicks, hits the bottom pretty quick. I'm going to slowly work it back. It's a really effective way of catching all sorts of different species. Now, moving on from that, I'm going to show you the jigs that I use. These new mustard jigs that are out, these are fantastic. This guy here, the Wingman, man, it is killing it. The amount of guys that are buying these things and dominating on bottom bashing, slow pitch jigging, or even high speed jigging, either way, these Wingmen will do really well. Now this particular one is 150 grams. I would even fish that in sort of 20 to 30 meters, it's fine. But then you can drop down to 50 or 60 meters, and depending on the run, you'll get that to the bottom as well. So these Wingmen are really, really good. There's another one here, the Zippy Jig. This guy's only 60 grams, but again, in the shallower waters, just worked up and down off the bottom. You lift a rod tip, lift and drop, and just do a half turn. It's a bit like tapping your head and rubbing your belly at the same time, but you can get that slow pitch jigging going. They just catch a stack of fish. So again, that one's from Mustad. And then you've got your larger pencil style jigs as well. This one's 150 grams, and again, just working it up off the bottom will do well. So nice handful of jigs there. Now, getting into the good stuff. Top water lures. Right now, I'm all into the Venom stuff that's just come out. I know that looks like an enormous lure. I know it looks intimidating, but there are not many lures you can pull out of the box now. You don't have to change the rings, you don't have to change the hooks. These are ready to go. These are built for Australian fishing. This is the GT Slayer, let me tell you. This is the V-Pop, 190 mil. Big long cast with this thing. It's heavily weighted in the rear end. Big long cast, pop, wind up your slack, pop, wind up your slack. You want a big GT? That's your go-to lure right there. But the GTs also love these guys. This is the V-Stick, 220 mil V-Stick, very heavily weighted in the rear end. great rattle in them as well, but they cast like you would not believe. You'll cast these 100 meters. Again, really good hooks and rings, and just a fantastic lure. Now, there's two ways that I fish these. One is the sweep, so you just get that thing swimming like that, then pausing, winding up your slack, sweep, pause, wind up the slack. But the most effective way to really trigger a bite, find the fusiliers, cast them over the top, and just rod tip up and wind like a crazy man. Get that thing darting over the surface. It looks like a gari or whatever it might be, just skipping along the surface there, and the GTs cannot help themselves. We've caught, I can't tell you how many GTs we've caught using that style. But these V sticks are absolutely sensational, come in different sizes as well, but I tend to just use the big guy. You can use the smaller ones on the flats, but that's my go-to. So they're the two that I use when I'm chasing big fish off the edge of the reef. Now, when I go up on top of the reef and you fish the shallows, you've got this guy, love it, the V Swim. This is the 150 mil. It's pretty fast sinking, all right? So you find a blue hole, don't just cast a retrieve, chuck it in that blue hole, let it sink down all the way to the sand if you can, but if there's reef there, obviously you want to pull it up, and then just a fast retrieve, and you'll see this thing swimming through the water like that. You can even sort of stop, start, you can do all sorts of different things. The swimming action on this V Swim is sensational. Back on the flats, you! I'll get rid of that fish, we'll pull him up and have a look. How much fun is that? In literally, what's that, a metre of water up there?
About a metre, yeah.
You see that Venom V Swim. 120 mil, that one. Very, very good for the flats. One of the lures that really killed it for us was the little baby one of this. A little bit harder to cast, but the 90 mil version on light gear in the shallows, well, it doesn't get much more fun than battling big coral trout in the shallows on the 90 mil model. But these V Swims, they're just sensational. They're absolutely awesome lures, and they're built tough as well. Now, trolling. If you're going to do a bit of trolling out there, again, the Venom guys have got you covered. Look at this big sucker. This is the 170. This thing will get down 5 meters plus. The great thing is you can troll these things at high speed and they will stay in. Absolute mackerel slayers. Great hooks, great rings, super tough lure, and they just get down nice and deep with the sensational action. So you'll get your Spaniards on these guys, but then you've also got the Xeric Speed Donkeys, a little bit shallower. So I run a deep one and maybe a Speed Donkey or even the smaller version of the Venom or V Minnows. So they're your trolling lures. There's about 1 billion trolling lures on the market. Just go see your local tackle store, but I'm using these right now and they're very effective for me. One last piece of equipment that you should definitely have, and it's behind me, I'll just bring it up here, is a really good tackle bag. We sell these on the Attic Brothers website. You can check them out. It's a Nowhere State brand, and I've designed these myself. It's just a square bag. What you can fit in this is incredible. They're actually made from 70% recycled bottles, which is kind of cool. We've got a spot in the top there where you can actually put your mobile phone, so they can sit in there. We've got a large storage area on the side and then 2 pockets on this side. But what we've also done is to make it even more waterproof is the lip that goes around the outside of the opening here is extended. It's definitely bigger than most. It's about 2 inches. So that just helps again with water penetration when you're out in the water, and non-rusting zips all the way through. You've got a dry area there to put your lures that have been used to dry off. Having a really good bag on the boat that's waterproof makes a massive difference, and these are cheap. And go to the website at atticbrothers.com.au and you can check these things out and buy one if you want, or go to your local tackle store. Again, lots of different brands that you can look at, but a nice big square bag like this, even transporting your stuff there, getting your reels there and whatever have you, these will fit probably 6 big tackle boxes in it and all the other bits and pieces that you need. Okay, so that's the bag that I'd suggest you get, something along those lines. Now let's talk about the rods. Now, if you're just a bait fisher and you just love your bait fisher, a couple of bottom bashing rods will do the trick. But let me tell you, bring them along, but bring a couple of other rods that you can experiment and have some fun. Like you've got that flats fishing with lures. It's so much fun, whether you're chucking soft plastics or small stick baits or whatever it might be. So bring something for that. Something a bit heavier for trolling as well, maybe some jigging stuff, and of course popping. If you're into catching those big GTs and so forth, you'll need a popping rod. So I'll go through mine with you very quickly. So when I'm jigging, I love these. These are absolutely fantastic. These are pretty new to the Venom range. So these are called Ocean Warriors. This particular one is a PE 3.5, jig weight 200 to 400 grams, and I've got a Shimano Osio jigger on this as well. Man, what a fun little combo for jigging. And I tell you now, on this combo, you could pretty much pull anything up, even doggies on something like this, but fantastic on all the trout, red throat, all that sort of stuff. So a light jigging rod like that, a must for me. So that's the first one. The second one is kind of multi-purpose in that this guy here, I can jig with this. I can double up and jig with this if I want to, or I can troll with it. So this one's actually called, I'll just let you know, it's a Venom. And let's have a quick look. This one's called Switchbait, PE 2 to 8. So made for switch baiting, so trolling and then putting a live bait back into a spread, but perfect for trolling. And if I wanted to, I could put a big heavy jig on that, drop it down and start jigging as well. Now the reel that I've got on this is one of the new ones from ATC. These things are absolute beasts. This is the Vigilance, 1600 size Vigilance. And I tell you, they're machined out of one piece of aluminium. Very, very strong reel. They're not cheap. But I tell you what, with the amount of drag that these things give you and the durability, you'll have this for 25 years. Moving along, now I'm going back to the flats. This guy here is the same reel as the one you just saw, but it's a 5000 size. One of the best reels I've ever used for fishing flats. Heaps of drag so you can pull these fish up. This has got 60-pound braid, and the rod is one of my absolute favorites. It's called a stick bait rod, it's a Venom, but this guy here, 7'11", but it's only a 15 to 30 pound two-piece. So a great rod for traveling, being a two-piece. 15 to 30 pound doesn't sound like much, but let me tell you, the power in the base of this rod is fantastic. So casting these sort of V-swims and so forth in the shallows on this rod and that reel, perfect combination, and you'll have an absolute ball. So that's a must for me as well. I've got two more. The big dog. P10 popping rod from Venom, one of my favourite rods of all time from the Venom range. Again, 1600 size, ATC, and 100-pound braid, and I normally run probably 100-pound fluorocarbon or 120-pound. On all the lighter stuff when I'm jigging or using soft plastics or even casting lures on the flats, 60-pound. I use the Wilson FC stuff, 60-pound is plenty. But again, nice big heavy popping rod. And the very last one out of all of them is the lightest one out of all of them. You can see this one's still rigged with a V-swim on it. So this is again is a Venom. This is a 15 to 40 pound spin rod. Very, very versatile. What's the length on this one? It is about 7 foot. It's a one piece. They do come in a two, and it's got an ATC Conqueror on it. This guy is about a 4000 size reel. So that's probably as light as I'd go. This guy here, I can use it on these little soft plastics. I can bottom bash. I can vibe with this. Great lure to be using your fish, great rod to be using your fish traps on. Very versatile, but again, very light. So if you do hook those big fish on the lighter rods, well, and on the flats, it's kind of like good luck, but a hell of a lot of fun, let me tell you. So there, I could go, those 5 rods, and I can pretty much cover just about every species you will find on the reef. And all this gear here, well, it'll get you out of trouble, most definitely. That's a lot to take in, I know, but there's no point going all the way out there and not having the right gear and watching the bloke next to you nailing fish and you're wishing you had his rod or his lure. So stock up. If you're going to go, you're spending the money anyway, and get the gear that's going to get you the fish. Good luck, guys. I hope you catch an absolute rip snorter.